All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl from Cleveland. This is episode 157. We are here discussing after another Cleveland Browns loss, so not super excited about that. It's definitely frustrating to be creating content and having to say the same things over and over and over again about what this team is struggling with, what is going wrong. I wish I could be saying something different on here, but it feels like I am a bit of a broken record at this point in time. So we will get into all of my thoughts with that Browns-Raiders game, looking towards this next game against the Commanders. And then we'll do some picks for this coming week across the NFL. Quickly just wanted to mention with Ohio State, I don't have a ton of thoughts about this game against Michigan State. Once again, another pretty good blowout, 38-7. They got off to a slow start in the first quarter, but then really kicked things into gear in the second quarter. Looking good on all fronts. The dual receiver threat from Jeremiah Smith and Egbuka is just, it's got to be best in college football. Like, it's so fun to watch. So they have Iowa coming up this week, and then after that is their first really big test, I would say, with Oregon, and I think that's what I'm going to be most interested in watching, is that game. Iowa could, you never know. There's always like one of those weird Big Ten games that just ends up being really hard for them. It's usually like a Purdue or someone like that, but it could be Iowa, who knows? So I'm not writing off any single team, but there's always one that gives them a little bit of a problem. So we shall see how it goes. But yeah, I need to watch some dynamic offense at some point in time. So at least I get to do that with the Buckeyes. I'll take what I can get. Okay, so let's get into the Browns game. Just cutting straight to the chase here, to the fun stuff. There's not much good to say about this game other than the fact that Deshaun Watson did play better than he had in the previous 3 games. So if you want to look at anything that's promising for the future, it's that. The unfortunate side of things, though, is that no one else showed up. Barely any other player other than, I would say, Myles Garrett on the defensive side showed up in that game, which is really frustrating because we just have not gotten to watch a complete team out on that field at any point in time this season. We haven't gotten a true look at, like, what can this team be when they are putting their best foot forward? We have not seen that from everyone at the same time. There were all of the things that I'll get into that were bad by the Browns across the board. But what was so frustrating, and I hate to be the ref complainer here, but taking away that 82-yard Amari Cooper touchdown for a really lame call is so frustrating. That is the worst way to go about a football game because it is deflating for that offense and the team that it happens to in that moment. You get a bad omen of like, this game is just not going to go in our direction. It was such a ticky-tacky call. I mean, I guess technically, yeah, you could call it, but it didn't affect the play. It felt ridiculous to be calling it, and was the difference in the game. So, if they would have scored that, I think we'd be having, hopefully, a different conversation overall about what happened in that football game. So that was really frustrating. Also because Amari Cooper has continued to struggle with drops and just not being himself. For that to be like this big moment where it's like, oh yeah, Amari Cooper is back. Let's go. He's got this. And then it to be taken away. Extremely defeating. Obviously, offensive line struggles continue. Look, I hate to be a broken record with this because I feel for this group in general because you cannot predict the level of injuries that they have suffered to the offensive line. Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin. You didn't expect to not have any of those guys out there. That was not in the plans. You can't plan for that. I was just saying this on a show I was on earlier today. There are so few complete offensive lines when you look across the league. If you have good offensive linemen, you're not ever, trading him, getting rid of him. You're re-signing him because it's really rare to get that. So when you look across the league, you're like, yeah, you're going to have holes in your offensive line no matter what you try to do to plug up those holes. But you can't anticipate that you're going to have that many guys out for injury. So, part of me wants to be mad at the front office for not being prepared for it. The other part of me is like, how could they prepare for it? How could they have a backup plan? Where would they be finding these very talented offensive linemen that they could plug in here? It just doesn't seem super realistic. So that continues to be a massive struggle. It at least felt like Deshaun was able to overcome that a little bit more, although it did get to him at a couple moments. We had the very heated moment between him and DeJuan Jones when I don't even know what DeJuan was doing, but it wasn't his job, and let that pass rush get right to Deshaun Watson while he was in the process of making a throw. I believe it was to Amari Cooper, and the throw ended up not being a good throw because of getting hit on his arm the way he did. But it felt like that was probably going to be a touchdown and a good throw if DeJuan had done his job. So I don't know. It's obviously frustrating to the line itself. It's frustrating for the quarterback. I'm sure it's frustrating for the coaching staff, the receivers, everyone. It's just a hard problem to work around. So I don't really know where they go unless you just say, hopefully these guys get healthy soon, because that's really the only solution we have at this point in time. Then on the other side of the ball, the defensive struggles in a way with the run game are very reminiscent of what we used to talk about with the Joe Woods defense. I hate to bring us back to that, but that defense in particular really struggled to stop the run. They struggled with a lot of the fundamentals of the game, like just wrapping up guys and tackling them. And we're seeing some of that from this defense, which is really strange and confusing because you would think that returning so many members of last year's defense, having a lot of those guys back in this locker room, and they were able to do those fundamentals well last year, for them to not be able to do those well this year is really kind of confusing, and I don't know what the reasoning for it is. I'm not sure if it's just like a general buy-in from everyone, where it feels like there's not a level of enthusiasm in the organization right now. You can tell everyone is pretty deflated. And I think defense, is such a emotional unit. The way they played last year with such emotion and intensity that if they don't have that, it's probably affecting how they're executing some of those simple things like tackling and doing their job correctly. But it's really weird. And they let that Raiders run game that was not supposed to be good coming into the game run up and down the field on them, which is really frustrating. I think someone else who has been struggling a little bit in the secondary is Martin Emerson. A lot of people are just kind of wondering, like, is there something wrong with him, like, that we just don't know about? Because he has regressed in a way that seems kind of strange. He looks slower. Like, it feels like there could be something underlying that we just don't know about, because that's not what we can expect from him. And it feels like opposing offenses know that and are exploiting it and have taken advantage of it multiple times throughout the last couple of games. So yeah, all of those things are frustrating. Look, you got to just hope as we get through the weeks here, Nick Chubb is coming back to practice. Maybe that sparks some emotions within the team. Hopefully getting David Njoku back soon. You just have to believe that injecting some of these guys into this team will maybe excite everyone on both sides of the ball. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say at this point in time. Looking towards the Commanders game, there's a lot I would say that I'm nervous about, just because of the way the Commanders have been playing, the way they've been rolling for these last few weeks, the way Jaden Daniels has not really looked like a rookie most of the time. I talked about it after his game against the Bengals. He had another great game this week. His confidence and coolness when he goes out there is not like a rookie. His ability to anticipate throws is really impressive. He's got Terry McLaurin, who is a consummate professional, one of the most underrated receivers in this game. Great guy all around. And I'm a little bit nervous about that connection. And if I don't know what the Browns plan is in terms of how they're going to be utilizing their corners, but I'm hoping that there isn't too much of an opportunity for them to exploit Emerson in that game. I'm definitely nervous about the Commanders' run game. They have a top 3 rushing attack in the league right now, about 170 yards per game. So they're going to have a real opportunity to exploit that. They have the best third down percentage in the NFL right now, which is also going to be a big test for this defense on how they can do on third down. They're scoring a lot, which is going to be obviously an issue for our offense, who's not been able to put up more than like 20 points a game. They're averaging more like over 30 points a game so far. So it's hard to win games when you don't put on more points on the board than the other team. So, the defense is going to have to do their job in order to give the offense even a chance, which is unfortunate, but that is the way it is. The other crazy Commanders thing is that in the last 3 games, they have punted the ball 1 time, which feels like a fake stat, but it's not a fake stat. It's a real stat. Just a very efficient offense that is getting points no matter what. And it's been a sight to see for sure. Nervous overall for some of those things that they do well that they're able to exploit for the Browns. I think the other big thing that I think I mentioned this at the beginning, because Watson showed so many improvements, at least he obviously has not returned to the form that he previously was, but his escapability was top notch in that game. He was making some better throws for sure. I felt like for the most part prior to that, even when he was using his legs to escape pressure, he was still not making anything out of it. And I felt like we were able to see more of him doing that in this game. I did want to talk about one thing with that, actually, that just came to my mind, because this was a big conversation online about that last play in the Browns game when Watson took a sack. Or the last play for the Browns offense, I will say, when Watson took a sack. There were a lot of conversations about that particular play, and a lot of people were like, oh, what was he supposed to do? The pressure was on him. Because my argument immediately after that was, hey, you got to get the ball out there. I don't care. You just got to get the ball out. And I think a lot of people took that as like, oh, but like there was, great coverage on this guy and great coverage on that guy and whatnot. And all of those things are true, that, the Raiders defense was in great position on that play. But I just think that you have a 0% chance of winning a game if you take a sack in that moment. You have a higher than 0% chance of winning that game if you just get the ball out. I don't even care if it gets intercepted or what happens. I think you have to get the ball out in that moment to just see if someone can go up and grab it. Give your receivers a chance. Give your guys out there a chance to make a play. And he decided to take a sack in that moment, and I didn't like that. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. We could talk the specifics of the game with the coverages and all of that stuff, and that doesn't change the fact that the game was going to be over and you needed to score there. So you just have to put the ball out there regardless. Just get the ball out there, give your guys a shot to make a play. So that's my those are my feelings on that. I guess the big concern going into this game, and I'll kind of end my concerns on that, is when the Browns get down, they just don't have the fight in them this year to come back. So obviously we've started like all of these games by scoring on our first drive. We've talked about it time and time again, that scripted Kevin Stefanski first drive. And then from there, the offense kind of dies down. Obviously, we want to build on that and continue to score more than just early on in the game. But in general, I hope that the defense is going to come out strong as well, because I don't want the Commanders to come out taking a 10-point, 14-point lead and the Browns have to dig themselves out of a hole. I don't think anyone has the confidence in this offense to be able to do that. So I really do believe that the defense is going to have to show up and show out, especially early on in this game on the road, in order to give this team a fighting chance of winning this game. Otherwise, I don't see it happening. Okay, so sorry to be all negative, but that was the game. It was a negative game overall. I felt very bad for my my parents who were there and went to Vegas to watch the game, and that's what they had to see. Do better, Browns. Do better for my parents. It's not fair. Okay, yes. So we're gonna do picks. To go over my week 4 picks, my record was 7-9, which is worse again than last week. I think I've gone down each week. I've made picks and gotten worse and worse. So let's try to get better this week. We'll see. I don't know. I feel good about my picks, but this is the NFL. Anything can happen. We do have the first week of some bye games though, so there are teams not playing, less games to pick. So starting off with Buccaneers Falcons, these are two teams that have showed some really bright signs at certain points in time. I'm actually taking the Falcons on this one. I don't know what the line is in this game, but I feel like I'm wondering if that's a controversial pick, but I'm taking the Falcons. Jets Vikings, taking the Vikings. The Vikings are rolling on all cylinders right now. So yeah, I have no reason to not pick the Vikings at this point in time, which is crazy. I was hating on them so hard in the preseason when I made my picks for this year. Browns Commanders, I'm so sorry. I'm taking the Commanders. I took the Browns last week. That was a dumb choice. I'm not doing it again. I'm taking the Commanders. Panthers Bears, I have the Bears. Ravens Bengals, big AFC North matchup. I'm taking the Ravens. I think what they showed against the Bills was very, very impressive. I think their offense and their run game specifically are going to be able to exploit that Bengals defense like no other. So I'm taking the Ravens. Bills at Texans, another good game there. I'm taking the Bills. Colts at Jags. The Jags are a pitiful team. Shout out to the Colts for finally being the team to beat the Steelers. Thank you so much for that. I'm taking the Colts. Dolphins at Patriots. Bad, ugly game there. I'm taking the Patriots, but I didn't really feel good about taking either of the teams in that matchup. Raiders at Broncos. I have the Broncos. Cardinals. Oh, I wanted to say with the Raiders, the reason I'm taking the Broncos too, it feels like they are kind of falling apart. Devontae Adams asking for a trade. I don't know what's going on over there. It's not that impressive that they beat the Browns with what they did, so I'm not, riding high on them by any means for getting a win. So I'm taking the Broncos. Cardinals at 49ers. I think this could be a decent game. 49ers are in a weird spot too with Christian McCaffrey obviously still out with injury. They just have some weird things happening there. So I don't know what's going on. I think this is going to be a competitive game, but I'm taking the 49ers. Packers at Rams. I am taking the Packers. Giants at Seahawks. Giants, no. I am taking the Seahawks. Cowboys at Steelers. This one could be interesting. Everything in me wants to pick the Cowboys, but I'm taking the Steelers because I picked against them a lot of times, and they're doing better than I have expected them to do this season. So we're taking the Steelers. Saints at Chiefs. I am taking the Chiefs. Hopefully we get another Taylor Swift sighting at the game. I know she hasn't been the last 2 weeks, which is sad. I can't see her cute game day outfits, which is always a nice thing for me to see after a tough Browns loss. I'm like, okay, at least we get to see like Taylor Swift in her game day outfit. So hopefully she'll be returning and watching the game against the Saints. Travis Kelce finally had a really good game this past week. I think he had 89 yards, I want to say, but some good plays and was able to get things going there. And as sad as Chiefs fans are, they're still winning football games, have not lost one, finding ways to win. It is so entertaining to watch Chiefs fans on the internet arguing about their team and complaining about what they don't like about their team. Because I'm like, God, I would kill to be you guys, like to just be in the position to be complaining after winning all of these football games would be a nice change from complaining after continuously losing football games. So, I guess we all have different expectations for our team, and that's probably why they feel the way they do, but I am so jealous of that feeling in general. Okay, so a bit of a shorter one for you guys today. Thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully, I will be talking about a Browns win. We cannot only have one win after this stretch of games. It would be so unfortunate if that was the case. So hopefully I'm talking about a win next week. If you could just leave me a review or a rating on Apple or Spotify, I would appreciate it. Follow and subscribe on the YouTube, comment on the YouTube as well. All of that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate all of you. And regardless of these wins and losses, go Browns.